Hello everyone, this is PHTV Channel 4 in Palos Heights. I'm Sue Jankowski. Welcome to Meet with Moraine. As I hope you already know, Meet with Moraine happens every single month where we bring in someone from the school who tells us about their department. And today we're really excited to have Rory Smith with us. He is the Executive Director, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Rory, thanks for coming in today.
Well, Sue, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you so much. We're excited to always find out a little bit about the folks that come in and talk to us. And so if you would please tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you come to be at Moraine Valley Community College?
Well, great. Thanks for asking. You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I think we lived in an area called Woodlawn while I was a child, and we moved to Chatham, and then when my wife and I got married and we were raising our children, we came out to this area and we raised our children in the Homewood-Flossmoor area. And so we're very familiar with Palos Heights and this community, and it's great to be working in this area as well.
Well, that is great. So, I mean, you've been very familiar with the whole area, and so somehow Moraine Valley kind of drew you in. What drew you to that?
Well, first of all, it's what this school represents. You know, Moraine Valley as a community college gives opportunities to students where they might not have had them otherwise. It's a place where adults can come and learn a hobby, learn a new trade, and, you know, enrich their lives. The work that I've done in my career has been in diversity, equity, inclusion, and community colleges have that special place. Community colleges work in a way that creates those new possibilities that families are able to move and along the scale of and trajectory in our society as we would all hope to be. And so being part of that is really important to me.
That sounds really great, and you're right. That is, there's something for everyone at a community college, especially Moraine Valley Community College.
Yes.
So that is a wonderful thing. And you say you've been involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion for a long time. I think for our viewers, it would be nice to know what kinds of things do you do to do your job with diversity, equity, and inclusion? I always have to look at it because that's almost a tongue twister.
It's almost a tongue twister. Well, you know, diversity is the presence of difference. And in the presence of difference, there's innovation, there are new ideas, there's new possibilities. Companies have done studies that have been done by consultants that said if you have diversity in your corporate office, you outpace others that don't have diversity, and that's gender diversity, that's diversity of background, of national origin, racial background. Those things add that unique innovation and possibility. When we listen to each other, we're better together. The other thing that when we talk about diversity, we also look at equity. Equity is not equality. Equity is the work that happens before equality can occur. Equity is the things that bridge the gap. They're the things that fill in those spaces where people have not had the chance to reach their full potential. Equity helps that happen. And then there's inclusion. Inclusion is the presence of being heard, recognized in your true and authentic self, and then being at the table where decisions are made, and having your voice matter. And when you put diversity, equity, inclusion together, literally we make a better world.
Okay, that is a lot of important, but I think some difficult in getting those conversations going. How does the school promote that? I know I see that there is an equity academy for the employees at the school. So how does that help them promote all of those things and get those conversations started?
Well, you know, Sue, foundationally, it's in our mission. And, you know, our mission is one of creating a space where we have a community that embraces diversity, that embraces that difference, embraces the possibilities that each person brings to the school. We look at creating an environment where everyone feels welcome and that they belong. And that's really important. That belongs in any circumstance. If it's your bridge club, it's your whatever community organization that you're in. You want to be there because you have this fellowship, mentorship, and friendship. That's what we want our campus to feel like. That no one feels a stranger when they come on. And so when we do work in diversity, equity, inclusion, it's about finding the mindset that welcomes everyone, so that, one of the ways I look at that is that every conversation is relational and not transactional, where it's, here's your stuff, here's the form, you please next in line. No, it's more about, how are you doing, how's your day going, is there any way that I can help you? Because it's in that willingness to help that makes a difference. It's being able to see a smile on someone's face. That's how we create this possibility for everyone, when we're making sure that we're smiling for everyone. And we're expecting the best from every person. Notwithstanding whatever context or ideas or thoughts we might have had, we look at that person to see who they are, what happened to them the hours before they came on campus, understanding what mood they're in, and having a sense of why they feel that way. And then it's our job to make them feel at home, create the space for them to be their best possible self. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is this wonderful space where we can make people feel not only welcome, but we also provide the support that generates that equity space that gets us where we're all on the same footing, on the same ground, on the same page, and working together in sync. And when that happens, it's harmonious. It's like great music when it all comes together.
Okay, so are you talking about there is like a particular space, or, because it's got to be filtered out to everyone, all the employees and the students. So it's not just a space, it's got to be in all the spaces.
You're right. Part of my job is to embed diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the campus. And we do that in a variety of ways. Sometimes the best one is just a one-on-one conversation. In other ways, it's trainings, it's programming. We've had diversity and inclusion as part of our mission for a great long time. In fact, I say from the inception of the school. It's for that purpose. Mm-hmm. And then when we married equity in it, it's also the things that we're already doing and then doing more of them, and looking to see what works, looking at the data to see if the programming that we put in place is making a positive difference, looking at our policies, our rules and procedures, and making sure that they are creating good outcomes, and that those outcomes are coming in a way that affect everyone and positively. And so sometimes we have to make adjustments to mm-hmm. make sure that we're going that extra step, doing the thing that sometimes sounds like change, and no one likes change, because when you change things it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Change is hard, but what I found is that sometimes the things that you're doing are about efficiency, and so you do it the same way. But if you take the time to find out what's troubling people about that process, even though there's a change, it might become even easier later because you don't have all the complaints coming, because things are working well. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing that diversity, equity, and inclusion helps everyone. And so I think it's important that we continue to do that work, and that we do it in a way that is sort of bottom up and top down. When you mentioned the Equity Academy, that flows from the work that we were doing through the Illinois Educational Attainment Program that flows out of the Partnership for College Completion, which is a grant-funded program that helps lead schools, primarily starting in Illinois, community colleges and the like, to become really focused on issues like retention, completion. When we talk about college completion, one of the things that we've seen, that when we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, not all groups perform and graduate at the same rate or have the same success in retaining and being a part of the school, because for whatever happens, either academically or their life or something in their life, that many of our students work full time. And so that's really difficult. Mm-hmm. And they come to school at night and they have families, and all those things can get in the way. And if there are things that we can do to bridge that gap, that's what we want to do. So the school has done two significant academies. You mentioned the Equity Academy. But we also, before that, we had a Retention Academy, looking at what classes were particularly challenging, where more people were withdrawing than others, and finding out what that is and how do we make that work for students, and say, we want to be flexible, we want your schedule, you should be flexible, you should be aware of this, and make sure that we're providing the kind of support when they start day one. That we're providing the sort of like the assessments that help them see the things that they want to improve on, that will make them college ready and make them ready for the next part of their lives. You know, because we keep students at the school for about 2 years or more, but that's either to get into a trade, so they can increase their jobs. You know, Moraine Valley and community colleges, it's just creating all that possibility, and then also providing the possibility to transfer to four-year schools, where they can continue their education and continue their growth and preparation for their life ahead.
A question about this. So to do these things, you mentioned like a particular class may be difficult. You see a lot of people who maybe drop the class or whatever. How do you facilitate this? Do the teachers say, hey, look, you know, Joe or Bob or Susie or Sally over here needs help to your department? Does that student come in and say, I'm not making it? How do you get to the people who need the help? How does that happen?
Well, one of the parts of that Retention Academy and our Equity Academy puts things in place. You know, we have our Student Support Center, Student Success Center. We have student advising, academic advising. We have an early warning system called Starfish that allows us to see when students are maybe they're not attending classes they should, maybe they're as they would want to, or maybe they're not performing well on exams or tests that are getting reported into the system. When we see those things get flagged, and people from our Student Success Office, our Student Academic Affairs, they'll reach out to those students and say, what can we do to help? Here are the things that we've noticed. Is there something that needs to be done? And so that one-on-one, the attention that students get, it's transformative. It says, you care about me in an amazing way.
Yeah, that is wonderful, because when you're in school and everybody has a busy life, and you may be a full-time student, like you said, maybe you're working and you have a family, you know, you feel like a little lost at times. And if someone doesn't approach you and say, hey, we noticed you might, you know, we're reaching out to you, how can we help? That's fantastic for the students there.
Yes, and it's been very, very helpful in, you know, closing the gap in retention. But there's still work to do. There's still focus. You know, the pandemic hit, and as it hit all of us, it changed sort of the dynamic and the culture and the community. And so we're building that community again. You know, because our students come back. They've had 2 years without, you know, being in face to face. They've just been, you know, screen to screen.
Right.
And the dynamics are different. And so we're seeing the participation in student groups increasing. We're seeing students on campus and smiling and interacting with one another. And that builds that sort of camaraderie that's really important.
It really is, and you're right. And with so many facets of our lives, we're impacted by that lack of personal, you know, expression with each other. And to bring it back, a lot of people are really reluctant. You know, they just don't, I'm fine at home. Well, you know what? You need to come in and be with other humans, you know, so it's part of the experience.
It is.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now you talked about the Consortium for Academic and Research Libraries in Illinois Building Diversity Assistantship Program. So this community college, our community college, was chosen for that. So this seems like, since it was chosen, like this is an honor to be involved in this group.
It is an honor. One of just a handful of schools in this area among this consortium, which has about 128 schools involved. We were one of the 4 in this initial program. This program, and the sort of like, it's a long title, this consortium. So we take the letters and they came up with Carly as a way to refer to it. So,
okay, that's easy.
Right,
so much better.
And so this program is designed to increase, you know, and they've been around a long time. The library associations, this consortium of libraries, realize that one of the ways in which they make a difference is having, and for students to feel welcome and that they have a space there. One of the ways in which you do that welcoming and belonging piece we talked about, is where students are able to see, you know, they look in the eyes of the librarian and they see someone that looks like them, or is a culture of theirs that matches their culture. And we have a very diverse school. And so that means that in order to do that, we've got to be intentional about making sure that we're representative in our faculty, our staff, and our libraries has taken that on with this opportunity. It's really designed to make sure that we have representation of our librarians that match or represent who we wish to be for our students, so that students can see themselves, prospective students can also see themselves in the representation that we have. So for instance, this program that we've been selected, and maybe it's been selected because of the work that we've been doing with the ILEA and the Partnership for College Completion work in equity, that helped us look like the right place to go for this particular grant program that we're receiving. And this program is designed, this grant-funded program is designed to help students who are interested in being librarians. I know when you think about what does it take to be a librarian, you think, well, I just go to school, but really you have to have a master's degree. It's not just an undergraduate degree, but a master's degree to be a librarian. These are some really wonderful, faculty level people that are running our libraries, and we don't even have we would not have that same sense of them without knowing that, without someone telling you that in order to become a librarian you have to have a master's degree.
I know, it's kind of surprising. You're like, oh, it really is a lot more than you think.
Yeah, and that speaks to understanding the context of people, understanding that what you might have thought or might have heard or stories you've seen in movies, that the people are different than that. They have more going for them than you may not know. And so to know that the folks that you're talking to have not just degrees, but master's degrees in the library, it sort of changes your respect for them. Because if you have that bias going in there, it's so different when you realize what it takes to be a librarian. I have so much respect for them. I always did. But this program helps to bridge that gap by giving apprenticeships for students. They can see what it's like to be in a library, give them the sense of here's what it takes to be a librarian, and then to provide them opportunities to do so.
Okay.
And looking at students that will help that diversity, that component. And that's where they want to, it could be diversity of language. It could be, more Polish speakers, more Spanish speakers. It could be people of a variety of colors, races, and nationalities. And they want to look to increase that diversity among librarian staff.
So this is very specific, a grant for promoting library work.
So the consortium pools their money and creates this opportunity to have paid internships and apprenticeships for students who are interested in becoming librarians.
Do you have a lot of students who are interested?
I believe we will, particularly when here's this opportunity for you. Sometimes you don't know that you're interested until the opportunity is provided to you. And so the work will be to reach out to students who might have an interest in it, and then to make that happen. Being a librarian is a special thing. I mean, our president, Sylvia Jenkins, Dr. Jenkins, her first job was as a librarian, and she's president of the school. So there's lots of possibilities.
There is lots of possibilities. And I think when you're a young person, people say, what do you want to do or what do you want to be? I don't know. I mean, you really don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, Sue.
No, so that is a great opportunity, an internship, so you can see what that's all about. And maybe that is something you're really interested in when you find out about the field.
Yeah, and there are lots of folks whose joy comes from reading, from books, and from knowledge. And to be able to then have a pathway into that, that's wonderful. So that's equity in the works, and this is done by this consortium of librarians in over 128 schools. The work of diversity, equity, inclusion, we can all take that on in some way in our lives. Taking the time to understand the context of neighbors that you may not have taken the time to chat with. Those relationships, those one-on-one conversations shift the way in which we see each other.
They are, and actually it sounds like we're talking about just even kindness, like reaching out to someone and listening to them, or being a friend or dropping off something. I mean, we see a lot of commercials, and schools, elementary schools have big banners, kindness counts and so forth. But it really does.
You know, fundamentally, if the world could treat everyone the way they wanted to be treated, we would, so many of our problems would go away. We'd take care of each other in a way that no one would be hungry. We'd take care of each other in a way that everyone would have a wonderful job and be able to provide for their family. Everyone would have a wonderful place to live. Because when we look at the world from an abundance perspective, you know, we're the greatest country in the world. We should be able to make sure that everyone feels well, and we've got to figure out a way to do that in a way that's not a zero-sum game. Helping others is not, what I do for you doesn't take anything away from me. It makes us all better. And so when we can look at that and find out that we're above the zero-sum game and not have a scarcity mindset that what I give you, I lose, you know, what I give you helps us all. And so, you know, that's part of the mindset around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's cultural. It's the way in which we live our lives and the way in which we care for each other.
That is absolutely so true. And, you know, if it would help to shout that from the rooftops, we could all do
We
it.
should all do that from the I'll be right by you, right by your side.
But I guess if you live it, you pass it on. You know, that's the thing you want to do.
That's right.
Do we have any additional goals? I think you've cited a lot of goals for diversity. Is there anything else about that we want to talk about?
Well, you know, we look at not just the things that we would ordinarily talk about, but we also have to think about, you know, we have a large international student population and growing. And the kinds of things that we provide for them are different, you know, because they come with different cultures and different backgrounds and different ideas. One of the things that's flowing out of our Equity Academy is the way in which we look at academic integrity, recognizing that different cultures have different ways of looking at learning. What we might think is plagiarism, they think that's a way of uplifting the words that they learned from someone else. And so making sure that they understand that in this system of academia, you know, we quote, we put the brackets around, we source those and cite them. But it doesn't mean that they're not learning. So there's this dynamic about the way in which we make sure that those instructions are clear to everyone in the room. Because there's sometimes we'll make the assumption that everyone knows what plagiarism is and how you quote somebody, and maybe that's not true. And so that's just something that's cultural that we sometimes have to learn. The only way to learn that is being in and asking the question, well, why is this? Why did it go this way? What can we do differently? You know, we know what we know, but we don't always know what someone else knows.
No, especially coming from a different country. You know, they do things differently.
Yeah. And then that also is the different cultures and different backgrounds and different lifestyles. Understanding what community colleges have learned is that when our students go home, they go home to a different circumstance than we know in our lives, because the demands of life and society are different for all of us in really material ways. I mean, I can't imagine having to work full-time and go to college and to raise a family. It's insurmountable in many views, but somehow community colleges make it surmountable. We focus our goals on making it so that people can find a way to go beyond their circumstance, to live into the lives and to the possibilities that they have and the dreams that they have. So that shows up not just for our international students, it's students who have a dream, you know, and maybe they need some support along the way. There's TRIO, we have a dream program. We have student groups that are affinity groups that also provide that sense of welcoming and belonging because it builds that community on campus. You know, we have our English as a second language. We have those who use the American Sign Language so that folks that need to speak that way, their language is meaningful and powerful, and we need to make sure that we're creating that equitable space where everyone can hear and be a part of, or listen and understand, or watch and understand by, you know, making sure that we have the closed captioning when we have events that are virtual, or making sure that we have sign language interpreters. Those things that we may take for granted are critical to the learning process for other parts of our community.
You know, I like to say that Moraine Valley Community College really has been, best foot forward all along so many different routes. And there's so many ways you can get support or help or encouragement, or whether it's financial or emotional or academic or whatever. And I'm really proud of our Moraine Valley Community College for everything they do for everybody. And I thank you today for coming in and talking about the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs there, which are so important. I do want to mention too, if our viewers are interested in learning more, what could they do? How could they find out more?
Well, they could reach me. I'm Rory Dean Smith, and Executive Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and my number I can be found on our directory. Okay. But you can also, so I really highly recommend that, and look at the different things and events that we have going on our calendars, and come on by and participate, and because this campus is yours as well. This is,
exactly.
Yeah. So
I tell people, get in your car and go over there. It's beautiful.
Absolutely, Sue. And we look at the ways in which students. We didn't get a chance to talk about our Safe Zone program.
Right.
That's one of the programs for our LGBTQIA+ community, where they can't always tell who's on their side and who's not on their side, and it's a time in our society right now where they feel threatened just for being who they are. And so one of the things about a Safe Zone is it's a group of volunteers who go through some training so that they know how to be welcoming and accept and provide resources to that community in times of need. And so that what you do is you go through this training, and then you get this placard that you can put in the window of your office. And what it says is that there's someone here that took the time to get some training, to be a resource to you, to be a sounding board for you, to send you to the right place where you need for the support if you can't provide it in that conversation, that you have someone to turn to. And we've been working on that program. We've had it on campus for a long time, and we've revitalized it in many ways. And we have a lot more placards out there in the windows, which are like a smiling face, a welcoming voice for a community that without that, there's no way they would know. No.
It sounds like, since it's a volunteer program, and the more the better, really. So if they wanted to volunteer, they could get a hold of you and say, how do I go about going through that class or that training so I could become a volunteer? Could they do that?
So the way in which it works is that we're doing training with our faculty and staff, and so that on campus that our community has a place to go, and so that they, it could be, that community is, you don't know who they are because it's their identity unless you're told, and so having the placard, that sign in your window says, I'm open to talk to you. I'm not going to judge you because I believe that everyone can be who they are to their full and authentic self.
Okay, so that's kind of within the framework of school.
Yes.
And then the teachers, the faculty can take that training if they want to.
Yes.
And then you have a great outreach program for that Safe
Yes.
Zone.
Yes. And so, it's just really nice to see that program revitalized and see that we're there, because how else do you know that you're welcome unless somebody says that? Yeah,
a little symbol, then you're like, oh, I can talk to that person.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today, Rory. We really appreciate all your good words, and it gives us a lot of things to think about. And it also tells us that Moraine Valley Community College is a great place for, your student, your grandchild, your niece or nephew, or whoever, young and old.
Yes.
Head over there if you want to talk to Rory. We'll put his information up on the screen.
Please
and
do.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks so much, Sue. It was a delight.
It sure was. Thank you. We'll see you next time on Meet with Moraine. Bye-bye.
Bye.